Hey everybody, this is Herschel from High School Top 200, and this review of St Andrews College 2016 is brought to you by Fineline Barbers. Now what Fineline Barbers is doing is that they've joined up with a major barbering suppliers here in New Zealand, and they're bringing us the Aotearoa Barber Competition, which is going to be held in September 2017. What barbers can do is that they can go and look for the Facebook page and the Instagram page that Fineline Barbers has put up, and they can upload their work onto these so that we as a public can go and see the work that these barbers are doing around the country. All barbers are able to enter into this competition. There's going to be barbershops around, and the best barbers in the country are going to be there. There's also going to be vendors there for barbershoppers and vendors to interact and to show us as a public what the barbering industry is all about. So remember to put this on your list. September 2017, the Aotearoa Barber Competition put on by Vinnie from Fineline Barbers. St Andrews is an interesting team, especially after what happened last year and all the success that they had last year. They actually managed to get a pretty good team together. I actually thought that it wasn't that bad of a team that they had. They had a good mixture of year 13s and year 12s. They had a good group of players that I thought would be able to compete, which they did. They also had a lot of key players that I think are good returning players. For instance, Shiloh, Oliver. I really like Mitchell White. I think is a pretty good player. I also like Isolea is another good. Henry Bates, Lou Johnson, like guys like that, who I think are really good players and solid guys who I think that next year will be a really strong team. And I think just off sort of face value of just seeing a roster on paper and things like that, I think that St Andrews is going to be a top 25 team next year. And they have a lot of good returning players and in pretty good positions. They're going to have to, obviously they're going to have to cover for Sam Gilbert, but you know, that's just kind of what happens. Sam Gilbert was by far the best player on their team, and he delivered all the time. I think if he wasn't there, it would be a different team. I think if he wasn't there, they wouldn't have had the success that they had. Lou Johnson getting injured early on was also another big downfall for them. Jackson Eddy was probably a pretty good pickup for them also as a prop, who I thought did pretty good as well and showed that he could play. But I like that because like St Andrews, they jump in their quad competition with Lindisfarne, Scots, and also St Kennigan's. Now St Kennigan's blew these guys out. It really wasn't any kind of competition either. And I think someone like St Andrews and with a young team, I think they needed something like that. I think that they needed to get a hiding. I think they needed to suffer that and get that humility back into play. And I'm not saying that they're arrogant, not at all. I'm just saying that it's good to have a reminder of how easy it is to be beat and how hard the New Zealand competition is. At least, for me and from my perspective, is that at least St Andrews looked and said, St Kennigan's is one of the best teams in the country. That's what we kind of need to look like. That's what we kind of need to show us how much work we need to get to that point where we're sort of like them and sort of playing at the level that these guys are playing in. And it was good for all these year 12s to sort of go through it, because they're saying, okay, let's work at it this time this part of the year. Let's work at it now, because when we're year 13, we know exactly what we need to play like and be like to not mimic, but to at least show face to these fellas. I think that they got better throughout the year, and as it went on. I mean, they had a good run of wins against. Obviously, they were the smaller. They had a good run in beating because they played the easier teams. I mean, they played Rangiora, they played Lincoln, played Ashburton, they played St. Thomas, then they played Marlborough, which was their first hardest game, and they drew. Then they won again against St. Bede's, and then they lost to Timaru Boys, and then they lost again to Shirley, then they lost again, and then they just kept going on until they hit Roncalli, and then they won 51-15. Now the losses to me are not that bad. It's not that they lost. I think it's I think the Timaru one they could have won. They could have won. Those are like one of those teams that you look at and say, okay, this is kind of a maybe we can pull it out or maybe we can't, but we're sort of on the same level as Timaru. And they only lost 11-14. Surely they did pretty good against 14-27, and that's a game where they probably, there were probably some calls that they should have gotten, and maybe if they probably did a bit more, like they could have at least picked that game out. Even against Nelson, it was only 25-14. So like these games aren't actual big blowouts until they came to John McGlashan, which it was just embarrassing. And from what I heard of the game, because I haven't seen it yet, I hope someone could send it to me, something like that. But I heard that St. Andrews rested a lot of players. Okay, they rested a lot of players. And if they didn't rest a lot of players, they still would have lost. I have no doubts in my mind that they would have lost that game. For me, and I don't believe in sort of resting players, because I believe that I want to win every single game, and I believe that a lot of these kids want to play for their school because they are proud of their school. They are proud to wear that crest on their chest. And so for me, resting players isn't really the best thing, I think, because you only have a limited time playing first 15. And some kids who want to play first 15 don't even get a chance to play first 15. So for me, to rest kids is like the worst thing that you could probably do. But they rested them. And 66-7 was the cause of resting your players. They then went on to play Roncalli. They won 51-15. Yeah, should have happened anyway. Christchurch, they lost 35-15. Then they lost to Waimea combined. They beat Burnside, and then Christ really just crushed them on the end. And I don't think it should have been that bad. Like, I don't think that team, that St. Andrews team, is worth 69-17 against Christ College. I think either Christ College was on their just riding that success, and St. Andrews just sort of gave up, but that is not, like, roster to roster and player to player, I don't think that is the score at all. I think it's a lot closer, because St. Andrews is not bad of a school. Like, if I was to show that score to, like, someone that didn't know about rugby, they'd be like, oh, this team sucks. They don't. St. Andrews is a good team. But, like, in those situations, or what happened, that's just one of those things that you have to go back and look at. One thing with first 15 rugby is that you don't know what problems kids are going through, and sometimes it's different, depending. I think St. Andrews is going to have a really good year next year. A lot of strong players coming back. Like I said, Shiloh's coming back. He'll probably be one of the best hookers within the region, maybe even within the country. Oliver Dew's going to come back. Jackson Eddy's another good player. Henry Miller. They've got to figure out what they want to do with that front row as well. I thought Morgan Griffin didn't get enough attention this year as a number 8, and I thought he was really good. But watch out for these players. Lou Johnson's another one. Even Isale Pauvalu is another guy at second 5, who's probably, depending on how he develops, he could be one to watch out for next year, one of the best ones in the Crusaders region. But yeah, it's going to be a good year for them. It's going to be with all the players coming back, they're really going to be something to watch for. So that's my review of St Andrews. We're getting through this. Hopefully we get it done. But that's my review for 2016. Peace.